Live from Las Vegas, it's theCUBE, covering AWS reInvent 2019. Brought to you by Amazon Web Services and Intel, along with its ecosystem partners.
We're back in Las Vegas, everybody. This is day one of AWS reInvent 2019, and you're watching theCUBE, the leader in live tech coverage. We go out to the events, we extract the signal from the noise. I'm Dave Vellante with my co-host, Justin Warren. Lynn Lucas is here, she's the CMO of Cohesity. Great to see you again.
Great to be back. What a reInvent, huh?
This show's rocking, it's hopping, your booth's packed, we were just over there.
Bright green, as always, so we stand out amongst the sea of, what is it, 65,000 folks here this year?
65,000, yeah, so give us the update. What's happening with Cohesity? You guys are rocking. How's business?
Business is great. We have fully transitioned to be a software company. We've had 100% year-over-year growth in our software business. Customers are looking to Cohesity for data management, and especially customers here at reInvent, we're doing a lot with the cloud. AWS has grown 20x for us year over year in terms of our growth with them. And we have an exciting new announcement here around how Cohesity is now validated to protect and back up workloads on AWS Outposts, one of the announcements this morning.
Great, so that, I mean, to me, that's, I always ask, how are you going to back this up? You know, and it really didn't have a good answer, so congratulations on that. But also, they're going to bring Outposts to the edge. We saw the 5G announcement. And so that's something that people have been, I think, struggling with it, because they know a lot of data is going to remain at the edge. You've got to protect it, act on it in real time. So talk about the engineering that went into that. It's, you know, usually these things require some intense engineering on both sides, unless it's a Barney deal. Is this a Barney deal?
No,
all right.
no. So yeah, a lot of engineers. We have a fine group of engineers at Cohesity, collaborating with AWS, but it really starts at the heart of it with what our founder, Mo and Aaron, invented, a distributed file system. We call it SpanFS, and it spans from core to cloud to edge. And so you brought up the Outpost Edge, and I'm sure that we'll be able to span that way. But we also span today, and I think in this world, and it was talked about in the keynote, is so important, hybrid from core to the AWS cloud, right? Because so many organizations have a lot on premises still, and they are working to figure out how to get it to AWS easily and simply, and then keep the whole thing protected.
So you guys are pretty aligned with AWS on definitions, I think, but let me just test that. So Andy Jassy would say, and I think he said this publicly, we consider multi-cloud, multiple public clouds. I'm not sure he used that word multi-cloud, but you know what he's talking about. And then we consider anything on-premise to be hybrid. And I think you guys use that same sort of definition.
We do, right? And I think for where Cohesity serves, which is mid-size enterprise on up to some of the largest global companies and public sector organizations, we see a lot of use of hybrid. Cohesity also runs natively in the cloud, so we run natively in AWS, and there's a lot of new cloud native applications, but we also want to support what customers are doing, and that's hybrid for sure.
So the other follow-up I have on that is this notion of data management. You guys, it's not just backup, it's data management. I want to understand how much of that is good marketing, talking to the CMO, versus sort of substance that the customers actually take advantage of. So what do you mean by data management?
It's a great question, and I'm going to say yes to the good marketing too, but in all seriousness, so what is data management? And we have the touch spot to say we're redefining it, and how do we back that up? We think of data management, of course, as you've got to store, protect, manage that data. But now in today's world, that is simply not enough. It has to be recoverable and available when you want, because backup as an insurance policy that doesn't work doesn't do anyone good. But more than that, we went beyond that, and we're looking at how do customers both protect against cyber risks as well as gain insights from their data. And when we talk about redefining data management, we're talking about rethinking how you get those insights out of your data or protect against risks on the platform in place. So applications run in place on the Cohesity data platform. And I think Andy talked about that this morning too, right? It's difficult in today's ever-increasing amounts of data. How do you have customers ship petabytes of data around easily? It's not scalable for them or operationally cost effective. So we're talking about letting them gain those insights or protect against those risks in place.
Yeah, he did mention that bringing the compute to the data instead of the other way around, which has been a problem for a long, long time. And that's something that I'm keen to understand a bit about how Cohesity is doing something differently, because this has been a promise for quite some time where we've been backing up systems and putting all of this data into a big backup pool that sort of just sits there and getting a bit annoyed that we're spending all this money for something which is sitting there just being an insurance policy. So we want to do more with this data. And that's always been the promise, and people have had a go at it a few times, but no one's really been very successful. But it sounds like Cohesity's actually finally maybe cracked it. So what is it that you're doing that allows this to finally happen?
Well, we like to think so. So Mohit Aaron, our founder, was formerly the CTO of Nutanix, often called the father of hyperconvergence, as well as at Google, invented one of the first web scale file systems out there. So underpinning all of this and how do we do this is a true web scale file system. It's his third generation web scale file system, which has a number of really unique properties. So in terms of your specific question around reusing that data, is providing zero cost clones and copies that enable that reuse of that data, whether that be for developers or whether that be for someone doing some analytics. So, and that of course, just like, because we're software defined, is running on white box hardware from us, but also certified units from Cisco, Dell, also HPE and others to come. So
I was going to mention that the advantage of software is that you can have that same experience wherever you can deploy the software. So I don't just have to buy an appliance and have it sit in my data center. I can actually, well, I like that, but I would actually like to have that run in AWS. And as you mentioned, you can now run that both in AWS, and I could run it on site on an AWS outpost, so I can get both the on-site experience and the AWS experience at the same time, as well as the Cohesity experience.
Yes.
There's a lot of experiences all at once.
Well, we want the customer, of course, to look at it from their vantage point. But yes, so 2 points there. Software, platform. So it's a software-defined platform, and part of this from not just a technology point of view, but from that customer experience point of view, is yes, you can run that software on premises, in a cloud, in a virtual environment, and from a business model point of view, one license.
Yeah.
We don't care. You choose how you want a deployment. From a view point of view, we provide one manageable, one management view, Helios of it, but that's one way to view everything managed under Cohesity. Of course, it's not going to get in the way of the Amazon tools.
So simple to manage and also simple to consume from the transaction perspective, but so simplicity, big theme. What else are customers really excited about? What do they tell you?
Well, a big theme here for us, and one of the ways that we see customers getting more value out of their data and their Amazon investment, we introduced an application running on the Cohesity platform called Runbook, and Runbook allows very simple migration from your on-premise environment to AWS EC2. And so that's been something that's been really popular, in fact surprised us a little bit. It's the first step. Right now it's a migration, but we'll be adding capability to it for full orchestration for either DR scenarios or true DR. And it's so simple, it's drag and drop. So that engineering team has made this really simple to do, so teams can easily figure out how am I going to move my applications to the cloud, and in what order am I going to bring them up again in a really simple drag and drop way.
What about tiering? You know, when I go by your booth, I see it's got some capabilities there. I'm interested in how where you pick up, or where you pick up where Amazon leaves off with what they've announced. Help us understand that.
Great question, and we did, thank you for mentioning it, bring new support in for DeepGlacier. So Cohesity supports tiering to all the different Amazon tiers. So we've always had automated policies that you can set as an administrator and decide, hey, I've done a backup on-prem and after 30 days, or whatever your time frame is, I'm going to move that up to AWS. got a lot of customers doing that. Our customer AutoNation, that's one of their use cases. We also support the ability for you to use Cohesity to change which tier you want to store in on Amazon in an intelligent way. And so that's an area that I think we complement Amazon with.
So essentially, if I understand it, you'll manage, you're the superset if the customer wants that, and then Amazon, you plug into what Amazon does and they'll optimize on their end. You can take advantage of that, that's transparent to the customer.
That's right, and that's
wins.
all possible because we're a modern architecture with native S3, and so we can plug right in to what customers want to do with Amazon.
So, okay, let's dig into that. What means modern? How do you guys define modern?
We define modern as design principles and philosophy born in the cloud native world, right? So unlike some of the legacy architectures that literally were invented 10 or so years ago before we had reInvent, Cohesity was built with native S3 and uniquely that support for the enterprise modalities of NFS and SMB and allowing at that file system level people to move their data back and forth between those two environments, but with a very simple user interface on top of that provides the backup, the archive, DR, the types of capabilities or use cases that customers want with their most important asset, their data.
You know, go ahead, please.
The transformation's been a bit of a theme of the show, certainly of day one, and Cohesity has transformed itself into a purely software company, as you've mentioned. What's next? What do you see happening for Cohesity and with customers? How are they going to be both transforming themselves together into the future?
Yeah, great question. And I like to use that word carefully because I think as a marketer it can be a little overused.
It's a little overused, yeah.
But seriously what I see, I think we're on a 10, 15 year journey, all of us, to transform our businesses to take advantage of data because it's clear now, I think, to most if you don't, you will be left behind, and it's only a matter of time. And so the hard part as I talk to CIOs and other IT leaders is, well, how do I get a handle on that data, right? And Cohesity provides an incredible platform to simplify that management, storage, protection of that data so you can take advantage of some of the other really cool applications and vendors that are here. How we continue to transform and how I see customers transforming is that promise of bringing compute to the data. I think we're in the super early days, but if I've got all of my data accessible and visible to me, now what kinds of insights can I gain from it? Splunk runs on the Cohesity platform as another exhibitor here, but also how can I prevent risk? How can I ensure that I'm compliant with regulations? And I think there's a lot of work to be done both at Cohesity and developing out those new applications as well as with our customers taking advantage of it.
So what if we could ask you a question around the just being an Amazon partner. So you seem pretty happy, business is growing, I think the leading, if not one of the leading growth partners of Amazon, that's cool. But a lot of people question Amazon in terms of them being fearful that Amazon's going to eat their lunch. We asked Andy Jassy about that in the analyst session. And basically his answer was, look, these markets are so huge. And I think, as well, I'd add to that, you've got to keep innovating. Now, my specific question is, Amazon does some backup stuff. It's not nearly as functional as your and other backup software, data management suppliers, but what's your perspective on that? Obviously it's good, it's growth now. Do you guys think about that? You just kind of keep putting the pedal to the metal? What's your philosophy?
Actually, I think I'd agree with him. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him in person, but I think all businesses have to keep their pedal to the metal for innovation, and we certainly do. But this is a massive market and a massive transformation, and Cohesity helps enterprise customers of all sizes and types, and most of them are struggling with, today in the early stages, how to get control of their data, how to manage it, know what they have. And I think they feel that that is both a problem within the cloud, but also on premises, and that's a very large market for us, and I think for Amazon as well. So we're super happy to be partners with Amazon. A rising tide lifts all boats, as I often like to say, and I think that's going to remain true for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in a lot of ways you just got to create in this market, and the competition will take care of itself.
If you pay attention to customers and they tell you what they're interested in and you respond to that, you tend to do pretty well despite the disruptions that might be going around you in the market. At least that's what I think a big part of our philosophy is.
I want to ask you a question about, from a CMO perspective in this data world. You talked about they run this decade-long transformation to put data at the core of our business. How do you as a CMO put data at the core of your business?
Oh my gosh, so the first thing I do is I'm asking and working with our engineering team, because any modern business and modern CMO should be getting data about their customers and what they're doing with their product directly into the marketing intelligence, and so that's an area that I'm really interested in and I press. So as an internal customer to our head of engineering, I'm trying my best because the technology around me in marketing is changing so rapidly to absorb that and understand that, and I think pay attention to my own advice and try not to date my customer for the first time 50 times, as maybe many of us have experienced as consumers, and use that data as best as I can to know how to address a customer's issue or problem when they're ready. And the technology around it is continually improving, and so it makes it really exciting to be in marketing and to be a marketing leader right now.
So you're actually pulling metadata out of your software to understand how customers are using your product, is that right?
You can see some, and I have a long list into engineering on other things.
Imagine if we could.
That I would like to know, and hopefully not in a creepy way, but in a way of serving the customer and making them aware of new capabilities. I'll tell you, one of the common things between Cohesity and Amazon customers that I hear is that the pace of innovation is very high. We put out 400 plus new features last calendar year, so more than a feature a day, and that's the God's honest truth. I've heard the same thing from Amazon customers. They struggle with understanding all the rich capability that's coming. So with data, if we can hone in a little bit and say, you may be interested in this based on what we know, similar to perhaps the shopping experience that we have, I think that's helpful to customers, because if I can narrow it in, I don't have time as a consumer to search through everything, and I think in business and in IT, the same holds true. So yes, we're trying to do more of that.
Yeah, if you can use data to match my needs as a customer, and maybe even recommend things that are going to help my business, I'm going to be appreciative of that.
As long as you don't recommend that I start a couch collection because I happened to buy one couch, which I'm sure we've all had that experience. So it is important to get it right, and I like that you brought up that not to do it in a creepy way, but understanding that customers do find this valuable. We find with our own consulting clients and our analyst clients, talking to them, that a lot of them trust vendors like Cohesity with their data, and you've built that trust because you've been able to show that you can be trusted over a prolonged period of time. Yes. So I think as long as you continue to do that, customers are quite happy for you to start exploring this data because they know that they're going to get a better result at the end of it. As you mentioned, Dave, so I'll get a good recommendation. If you're actually serving me and making my business work better, of course I'm going to want to do that.
Yeah, and I think you earn that trust every day.
Yes.
So what should we be looking for 2020, Cohesity, milestones, things you want to share with us?
Well, we look forward to continued significant growth. We're over 1,300 customers now globally, and we see continued massive growth in the cloud, I'm sure as many here are experiencing, and just really continuing to serve our customers. I think that's what we keep our eye focused on. Be humble, keep learning is a mantra from Mowat, and that's what we're going to keep doing and growing the business and helping our customers with that.
Well, it's been fun watching you guys grow, the ascendancy of Cohesity kind of matching in with cloud and hybrid. Lynn, thanks so much for coming on theCUBE, always a pleasure.
Thank you guys, it's been great to be here as always.
All right, keep it right there everybody. We'll be back with our next guest, Dave Vellante. For Justin Warren, you're watching theCUBE from reInvent 2019. We'll be right back.